All right, Hokie Hoops. And I'm going to bring up my first slide because this will help us start the talk here. Back in the spring,
Wow,
when we had just finished up a really bad basketball season for the men, although they saved the season towards the end. Billy and Ed did an episode about this Jeff Goodman tweet. More or less, they did a whole episode based on a tweet. But what it said was Mike Young is expected to return with increased NIL. And so those resources, this was long before any of the budget talks, right, Ed? I mean, we knew that maybe the budget would come up, but this was not related to that. And so I'm not sure if they were just going to divert more of their regular piggy bank back to basketball, but this was already a step in the right direction because there was some talk of like, does Mike Young want to do this again? Is he actually a good coach? And many of you had said many times we believe in him, but this was a nice step by the school.
Yeah, I think, it was completely unrelated to the recent budget stuff, obviously. From what I understand, just trying to remember what was going on back then, geez. There was a lot of conversation that the powers that be, whether that donors and then also athletic department leadership, realized the error of their ways with how this was funded last year and how hamstrung Mike Young and co were really. And they were doing a lot of heavy lifting during last season to get to a better place where the offseason was not going to be what the offseason was prior, where you lost everyone. And so credit to them, credit to Witt, credit to, everyone involved, the donors, for kind of realizing, oh, wow, this is not okay. And getting the pool of money into a position where the staff could attack the offseason, retain who they wanted, and then go out and land some bigger fish with a resource pool that was a bit more respectable. Not to, beat a dead horse. Everyone saw Toby Lawal's commentary at the end of last season. Look, from what I understand, and I could be off base here, but from what I understand, Malaja Poteet was likely the highest paid player on last year's roster. You're not going to win a lot of games that way. And that's no shot at Malaja. I think everyone knew it was bad. Truthfully, the fact that roster went 8-12 in the league is nuts. When you look at where a lot of those players are now, you've got guys who are playing, a step or two below ACC competition now, and they were playing 25 minutes a night last year, and that team somehow went 8-12 in the league. So when you look at what, this new roster has on the backs of the NIL fundraising that I think was going on basically during last season, the future should be a little brighter. But yeah, wow, I forgot about that tweet. That's so funny.
Jeff Goodman blocked me on Twitter, by the way.
What'd you do, Sam?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think you have to do much to get Jeff Goodman to block.
I think
he's one of those, but
I feel that. My move on Twitter is I don't generally. There's a few people I block without a doubt.
I block everybody.
You're a Matoma.
I'm a big blocker. Yeah.
I'm more of a muter. Like if I'm not responding to you anymore, it's probably because I muted you.
Oh, so they're yelling into the void. That's even better. I love that.
Maybe I'll put it. It's like putting them in jail. No,
it's like a Black Mirror. It's like a Black Mirror episode where you can like block somebody. That's good.
So the other big news of the offseason was Chester Frasier returning, which was, if people aren't aware, he came over from West Virginia via Illinois, but he had been with Virginia Tech back in the Buzz Williams days. And Chester is huge for our recruiting, right, Ed? I mean, that's like what the biggest contribution potentially from Chester, but it's also going to help our defense.
I wouldn't put anything on it. I think it's just huge and sentence.
Okay.
He's a great basketball coach. He's been great everywhere he's been. The impact on the floor, statistically, from the time he was at a place to when he's not at a place, or vice versa, is noticeable. And then, yes, the recruiting piece of it is huge as well. But yeah, just a great basketball coach, period. End of sentence. It was a huge get by Coach Young to, as he said in his first media appearance of the year, drive over to Morgantown and ask, unannounced, he said, and ask Chester Frasier to come back. That was during the time when West Virginia's coach was taking the job at Indiana, I believe. And Chester, being an Illinois grad, wasn't going to Indiana, so he decided he'd hop on back down to Blacksburg. Just a great move, and a great basketball coach who's going to help us in multiple facets.
And it seemed to pay immediate dividends if you look at our portal additions. Hansberry comes to mind immediately because he was a West Virginia guy. But then there's the Neoklis Avdalas piece of this, which I'm not so sure who all was involved in the recruitment and who wasn't. But we got a huge piece. And that was something else that the palpable buzz. John Rothstein on Twitter yesterday. Palpable buzz in Blacksburg surrounding foreign import Neoklis Avdalas, 6'8" and has an incredible feel. A much better shooter than Igor Demon was last season for BYU. A gifted offensive talent. Will have a great season for Virginia Tech. And it's funny, Ed, because in our conversations, you often compared him to Igor as well.
That was like I think my comparison was more in just the path, like, come over here, do 1 year in college, get drafted thing. That was kind of the talk was he wants to do that and follow that same path. But Sam, go ahead before I have a few more things.
Yeah, what a shot at Igor Demit. Like,
yeah, right.
Come on, dude. Like, he's a good player. He's in the league now. We don't need to.
That's funny.
What was he drafted?
I want to say it was it higher than I thought it was going to be? Because I was not the biggest Demon guy. I liked some of the other prospects better, but he definitely had. Yeah, he went. That's what it was. He went higher than a lot of people were expecting.
That's very high.
Although in this past draft, as I recorded the last 2 drafts on this channel, it was a very mixed bag on the different teams evaluating guys post 5, 6, 7. I mean, it was crazy the variance that you could find on draft boards.
Yeah. So the path that Neo is taking is similar to what Igor did, and come here, play a year, show what you can do stateside, get drafted. I do want to double back on Amani Hansberry for a second. So sure. Amani Hansberry, first of all, really good player, and I don't know if you have it queued up, but there's a Rothstein tweet about him.
Yeah,
actually, I don't know if there's a tweet or if he talked about it in his little selfie video.
I got
it. Yeah, so really, really good player at West Virginia. Kind of big and physical when you watch the tape there, but it sounds like he's slimmed down a little bit while maintaining some of that strength. Think traditional Mike Young 5. So when you think like Aluma and Basili, shaded more towards Aluma in terms of the shooting ability, it's there. It's not, Basili had a clip on him. That dude could rip it. And I don't know that Hansberry's 3-point ability is quite as strong as Basili's, but it's probably Aluma-like. And then, Mike Young alluded to it a little bit in his presser, his first presser of the season, talking about the ability to kind of have a 5 who can handle the rock, and the versatility and the things that opens up for you offensively. That will be Hansberry. You can play through him. He's got good enough hands where he can make reads and pass and put the ball on the floor a little bit and then knock down threes out in the perimeter. So really good player. But as it relates to Frasier, we were recruiting Amani Hansberry really hard at a high school when Chester was, I believe, still in Blacksburg. And Chester obviously decided to go to Illinois, his alma mater. Amani Hansberry goes to Illinois. Chester goes to West Virginia. Amani Hansberry goes to West Virginia. Chester comes to Virginia Tech. Amani Hansberry comes to Virginia Tech. So you can follow that path pretty clearly. And that was a Chester Frasier guy to bring in. When Chester Frasier was announced as the assistant coach and Hansberry was in the portal, we kind of knew where he was going. The Neo thing is such a big deal for so many different reasons that I'm unclear fully on what the connection was. I heard some, weird convoluted connection point back to Chester's playing days and Neo's agent or something.
Yeah, there's some kind of
I want to get clarity on that. And the next time, if I get any FaceTime with Coach Frasier, I definitely want to ask, because I think that's an interesting dynamic with international recruiting and how, that's being leaned into more both by Virginia Tech and the ACC as a whole. But I do know that, Chester Frasier landed Neo. I mean, that was a Neo connection with Frasier, and Frasier's, what was the point on that recruitment?
Okay.
So,
and that's what my understanding
if you're keeping
was
score,
as well.
Yeah, if you're keeping score on the portal editions, Hansberry was a Frasier guy, Neo, Frasier guy.
So does Virginia Tech You know, they went international for 2 players this year. Do you see Virginia Tech in the future maybe leaning into international a little bit more, and then maybe even going maybe not as far as a program like St. Mary's does on the West Coast in California, where half their team is from Australia? It works out pretty well for St. Mary's. I don't know if you've watched college basketball recently. But like, does Virginia Tech, are we starting to see them lean into that as, hey, this is a program differentiator for us, especially when two of like VCU and UVA are 2 pretty big basketball recruiters in state, that if there's a guy from Richmond or Nova, like immediately you got to go against those 2 guys.
Well, just like football has become so national in recruiting, basketball is even more so. Recruiting your footprint, not that big of a deal for those kind of blue chippers, right? Like, a 4-star, 5-star, they can go anywhere they want. They don't care. Now, when you find the diamonds in the rough, like a Ben Hammond or a Sincere Jones, that maybe is where regional recruitment plays a bigger role. But yes, as far as international goes, I absolutely see Virginia Tech leaning into it more for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, NIL deals aren't public. We don't know the ins and outs, but I get the sense that going and getting someone like Dorn, who comes in physically ready to play, has been playing professional basketball, has the skill set to play in the Atlantic Coast Conference right away, from a cost perspective, I would imagine is advantageous for a school like Virginia Tech. Whereas if you go and spend money to get a 4-star center who might not be able to play right away, it's maybe not quite as impactful in terms of just the dollars and cents of it. But then there's also the basketball piece. And, what does Mike Young value, right? Mike Young values skill, passing, intuition, shooting, of course, all these things that Europe does better than the United States does. I mean, Europe is better at developing those skills that Mike Young looks for and has had players come in and excel with. I mean, Aluma was a very European style player. Grant Basile, same.
Yeah.
And that's just why they're both having success over there right now. So when you just look at it from a pure basketball perspective, those guys come over here, and Coach Young talked about this in his presser as well. Like, they come over having played a lot of basketball at a professional level. They've seen a lot of plays, and their skill development is just at a place where guys coming out of the AAU circuit just aren't there. That works for the Dukes and the Kentuckys, who are getting the 1% of the 1% in terms of the freshmen coming in.
And then they get better as the year goes on.
That works for those guys. But when you get into guys who are kind of, outside of maybe, I don't know, I'll be generous, outside of the top 25 in the recruiting class, there's a little bit of a shock and awe factor when you get into big boy basketball that I don't know that we're going to see the shock and awe factor come from these guys who've been playing pro ball. And Virginia Tech will lean into it. And I think a lot of other programs will as well.
The point about Mike Young, what he values and the skill set, is a great one. I had not really thought about it, but in that specific way, but that's a really good point. Finishing out basketball before we get to the Rothstein tweet about the lineup, because we're going to talk about that. Kevin Giltner leaves to be the head coach at Wofford. I need to bring it up because KG is a guy pretty well. He had been with Coach Young forever. And then Wofford has this stupid scandal. And in the same week we're playing them in football, they lose their basketball coach, and they come and take one of our favorite sons in Coach Giltner. So what are your thoughts on him leaving? I know we replaced him with a coach from Boise State, which seems promising, but just a word on KG.
He's my guy. I'm bummed I'm selfishly bummed, but super excited for him. Great basketball coach, great dude. Perfect, obviously perfect fit to go back to his alma mater at Wofford and kind of, right that ship with all the weirdness they had going on there. No brainer for Wofford to bring him back in. And I'm curious to see how things look. You could clearly see what KG was doing for this team during a game, right? Like calling out the offensive plays and the sets and things like that. So curious to see how that looks, but great basketball coach, great dude, and wishing him all the success down in Wofford. I'm going to try to go to his first game. His first game as a head coach is actually at George Mason.
Sick.
In Fairfax.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to try to get up there and see that one, but very excited for him, man. Bummed for us, excited for him. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, like my first reaction, like when the story broke about Wofford, we knew he was going to be a one of the top candidates. But my first reaction was like, I'm shocked it took this long.
Yeah.
Because everyone speaks so highly of him. And I mean, sticking around as a high assistant coach with the same head coach for that long is unheard of in college athletics.
Yeah.
So I think it's a testament to Mike Young and how he is as a leader and manager, but also a testament to Kevin Giltner that he was retained for that long.
Think about this. When they met, Giltner was probably 18 or maybe even younger from a recruitment perspective. I believe they had 1 year apart between recruiting and going to Wofford and his departure to go back to Wofford as the head coach. I think they had 1 year apart where KG went and played pro ball. So they met when Coach Giltner was 17 and they're departing and Coach Giltner has 2 kids.
Yeah. It's a testament to
it's like a second dad, right? And
that's so cool. Like it's just so cool. So cool.
All right. Finally, the lineup. Let me pull this up because Rothstein did us a favor and created some conversation. Early prediction on Virginia Tech's 25-26 starting 5. Neo, Jalen Bedford, Jaden Shute, Toby Lawal, and Amani Hansberry. And I'll start the conversation in that 4 of those guys were in my projected starting 5. The one that wasn't was Jalen Bedford. So, Ed, why do you think this is what Rothstein is saying?
I mean, look, he was at practice, right? I haven't been to practice, so he obviously saw something. I don't know what. Maybe they were running 5s and he saw something. But I think it makes sense. I think first of all, I'd like to point something out. In this lineup, your point guard is as tall as your center.
Because Neo's the point.
Yeah. Neo's 6'9", Amani Hansberry 6'9". That's absurd. But aside from that, you think about, so take those 5 out, right? So those 5 are on the floor. Then you look at who's on the bench. That's Ben Hammond, that's Tyler Johnson, that's Dorn, and Isaiah Pasha, right? So I think from a just kind of rolling rotations piece, that might make a lot of sense because when you have Neo on the floor with Jalen Bedford can guard the best guard. Neo doesn't have to worry about that.
That's the UNLV transfer for people who aren't aware. And I wasn't so sure of his ball handling capabilities. I had him down as a 2 in my head, but and Pasha being more of a ball handler.
Yeah, so you're right. And you're right on that.
Okay.
I think when you look at that roster, that 5, right? You have Neo dominant on the ball. The 2 bigs kind of interchangeably. 4 or 5, they can kind of flip flop. You have Jaden Shute knocking down 3s, and then you have Bedford on the floor to guard the best perimeter player on the other team, which will be predominantly his role most nights. But then also, as Coach Young mentioned in his presser, the ability to knock down open 3s. He's not going to shoot it the way Shute shoots it. But if he can knock down open 3s with the spacing that'll be on the floor with Neo and Lawal and Hansberry on the inside, that's an added benefit. But then, like I was saying, so you take them out, you roll 4 new guys in, keep whoever you want on the floor. Ben Hammond becomes your point guard, right? But he also can guard the best guard in the other team. He can guard the point guard in the other team, which is something that I'm not sure how Neo is going to adapt to quickly. So if you have the ability to have Jalen Bedford guard the guard in that first lineup and then Hammond do it in the second lineup, that frees up Neo and Pasha to be the primary offensive driving forces. So it's interesting. We'll see how it plays out. Tyler Johnson's a guy that's going to be really hard to keep off the floor.
Who was that?
Tyler Johnson's going to be really hard to keep off the floor. We saw it last year. So I don't know that who starts necessarily means much. Yeah, here's the other Rothstein tweet, right? Hammond and Johnson, who, played an ungodly amount of minutes as true freshmen in the ACC. They all of a sudden go from being, call it your second and third best players last year to coming off the bench. Think about
they're amazing. Getting those 2 guys back. When we were talking about it this summer, like Toby was a given that we wanted Toby back, but we were like, we want Ben Hammond, we want Tyler Johnson back, and they are going to play a lot and be very important for this team. And getting Pasha, who was the CAA Player of the Year or Freshman of the Year, I think it was.
Yeah,
and that's huge.
It's huge to have scoring off the bench too. Like a lot of teams, they don't have good scorers off the bench, and those minutes are kind of a lull. And Virginia Tech does have scoring off the bench. And I also think what's really cool about this is I do feel after what we saw last year, I feel comfortable with Tyler Johnson having the upper hand against a lot of the other backup guys that we're going to see in the ACC. I feel good about Ben Hammond like handling his own. I feel good about Pasha, like from what we saw last year, like
they
being
had to
able
play
to score
so much.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of times people think like you can't think of starters in basketball as these are my 5 best players and then these are my players 6 through 10. It's not always how it works. Sometimes you are saying like, hey, maybe this is my 4th best player, but I'm going to hold them back because I can run my offense with these 5. And then when I bring my next crew in, I have an advantage over the other team. And so I think this team is set up depth-wise really, really well.
If Bedford is good enough to be a starter,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. That is absolutely fantastic for our team because I wasn't really necessarily counting on that. And I do think there's a little bit at play there with what Sam just said in that
he's a 5th-year senior too.
You gotta choose the lineups that are going to work better. And we don't know if Mike Young thinks the same as John Rothstein. We don't know that, but it's a fun thought process to kind of think, okay, how will they pair these different rotations and whatnot? Because we haven't even talked about Gerdak and we don't have time, or Dorn, or even a lot about Lawal, who I think him and Neo, I mean, this could be appointment television for ACC. Like it really could. I know they're not household names for 99.9% of college basketball fans, but like they will be. Like they really will be, I think, as we move through the season. And it's a tough schedule. I mean, we're going to have we got Bahamas, we got Providence, the ACC slate, there's a lot to look for here.
The ACC did us no favors with our road slate.
The road slate, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, you build up some tourney resume here.
Yeah, well,
let's
they're
go.
Gonna have chances because we play every good ACC team on the road. It's nuts.
And they got us playing UVA December 31st, I think it is, or like sometime when our students aren't back. Is that right?
It's bookended. We play them first game in the league and the last game in the league.
It'll be packed and it'll be allowed regardless.
Yeah, okay. I'm not worried about it. No, it's a lot of good roster problems to have. I would say from a lineup perspective, though, like don't keep an eye on who starts, keep an eye on who finishes games.
Yep.
I think Bedford, from just a logical, who should we roll out there as our first 5 perspective, makes a lot of sense. I think the same logic can be applied to shoot. Logically, just traditionally, those 2 fit around Neo, Lawal, and Hansberry as complementary starters. But good luck keeping Ben Hammond and Tyler Johnson off the floor.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, that was great. And I'll probably cut that as a Hokie Hoops little snippet for YouTube too. We're trying to get a little tasting menu out there for people because basketball is coming. Me, Mike, and Ed will be back on the mics in not too long for the Hokie Hoops pod. And I'm looking forward to it because, hey, if we did it last season, Ed, we can do it this season. Everything should be easier than that. So
yeah. Last year it was hard to get up and record at some of those times, but hey, we did it. We stuck with them in the bad times, and hopefully we it pays dividends this year.
For sure. Do you want to stick with us to Wake, or do you want us to cut you loose, big boy?
No, because if I sit here and listen to it, then I don't have anything to listen to tomorrow. So I'm going to leave so that I can listen to y'all talk about this game later.
Okay, buddy. All right, Ed, thanks a lot for being here, man. That was awesome.
Absolutely,
we'll talk to you, man.
See y'all later.
Later. All right,
fired up for basketball season.
Yeah, man. I mean, that just got me juiced. Like that lineup, the options we're going to have, it's fantastic. Okay, Roback. 2 Deep VT, all one word, all caps. That's the code. Make sure you're using it anytime you want to buy that Sandman. You want to get yourself a polo. You buy your wife one of those little dresses they have. Roback has you covered. They have every college out there. Hit it up. Use a new email. Get 20% off. Do it again and again and again. 2 Deep VT.